What about when you went back to City, Roberto Mancini? This is where things got serious for you.
Yeah, he came in mid-season, the season that I was away. I don't think him and Shea got on from pretty much the get-go, but Roberto kind of had that trait. He didn't get on with everyone, and he was willing to clash. But to be honest, that time in Manchester City was high octane. There was lots going on. There was lots of good things going on, lots of bad things, and I think he was aware that his ideal goalkeeper was a bigger goalkeeper, very kind of set in his ways in what he wanted. And like I say, him and Shea clashed. I was aware that I was trying to leave. There's no two ways about it. I didn't feel welcome at the club. I didn't feel wanted. I probably wasn't wanted because they were able to do and get who they needed in. But I had a very good year at Birmingham. Actually, not many people will remember, but Shea got injured, Stuart Taylor was injured, and right at the very end of that season, Manchester City ended up getting an emergency loan in for the last couple of games when they were pushing for the Champions League. And they explored with Birmingham whether they could take me back for just, I think, the last 2 games. But they couldn't, and Birmingham, stood their ground and said, look, we're trying to achieve our highest place in the league, so if you want it, you'd have to compensate us. But that was the first time I'd had a conversation with him, and he just asked me in the summer if we could sit down and talk. I said, I'll always have a conversation with anyone who asks respectfully to speak to me. So I sat down, and he said, I'd like you to come back to compete with Shea in pre-season, of which I said absolutely not, no chance. Like, I'm not wasting my time. I'm on a good trajectory here. I feel like I can either sign for Birmingham or I can go elsewhere. And he said, look, please just do me that. Do me the courtesy of doing pre-season, and then whatever happens, you're free to do whatever you need to do. So I thought, why not? It was going to be complicated anyway, contractually, to get me out. So I went back in, and myself and Shea shared the pre-season, and they ended up choosing me first game of the season, which was away at Tottenham. And they ended up having, the first half was laughable, the game that I had. I think they had so many shots, I made so many saves, and that moment was a big moment for me, without knowing it, and then never really looked back for a few years.
Out of interest, who did they get on emergency loan?
Martin Fulop.
Wow.
The late Martin Fulop. Yeah, he was, I think they pulled him out from Sunderland. And they did okay, but they didn't end up, I think they ended up losing to Tottenham. I think Crouchy scored quite an important goal.
Yes, yeah.
And I think remember when David Bentley poured it over Harry Redknapp's head? That was that game.
Yeah, David was here this season as well, by the way.
Yeah.
We flew him out here. He's a character and a half. I don't know how much you've...
Yeah, he's funny, man. Yeah, very, very funny. Good player as well.
Very good player who just followed his own path, really.
Yeah, 100%.
It was a great season overall. You got Champions League qualification.
Yeah,
so you made up for what happened the year before.
Yeah, we did that first time in the club's history. It was an unbelievable ride. We had some top players. We had chaos going on. We did okay in the Europa League. We won the FA Cup that year.
It's about to say, yeah. And you beat, what was it? It was United in the semi-final.
Yeah.
And then Stoke in the final.
Yeah. Yeah, there were big things happening. I was #1 for England at that time because there was a bit of a changing of the guard after the World Cup. And Fabio Capello made me his one. When I got back into Manchester City, I'd obviously looked like I was going to be playing for Manchester City as well. They were on an upwards trajectory. Yeah, it was a good moment in my career.
What was the standout moment that season? Was it lifting a trophy for the first time at City?
Yeah. The FA, well, it was the FA Cup win in the semi-final at Wembley against Manchester United, the strongest team, of that era. Sir Alex Ferguson, it was a good team. It was a hard-fought 1-0 win. And then we went on to secure Champions League status, like I say, which the club had never done. And then we won first trophy in many years. So that was one of the best years I've played and been a part of. And myself personally, I had a great year.